Okay, so let's start with MongoDB and Node.js. So first we need to run MongoDB and see what databases we have right now. If we don't have, let's assume we don't have, so we are going to create a new one, and we have a lot of here, so I'm gonna ignore them and start from the scratch and create a new DB named vehicle DB. Okay, and let's start with creating a first tuple or collection, because this is NoSQL, and call it vehicle collection. Okay, so vehicle DB, you can see here, is the name of the database, and dot vehicle is the collection we have by default accessed. You can see in the left tab there is vehicle DB, and there we have one collection named vehicle. So let's give it some data. So I'm gonna say vehicle name and Corolla 2014 variant XLI. Okay, so this is basically a JSON format, that is, you can ignore these, the early curly bracket and the last one. But this is the format of dictionary value with name value pair, and as you can see, a collection itself can have a sub collection. So id has a element called oid, which is auto generated by MongoDB, but if I want, I can create sub collections inside it, and this is what JSON format is, just a name value pair. Okay, so the record has been inserted. Now let's create a new Node.js folder and call it tutorial, NodeJS API basics, and copy the URL from the Explorer and put it in cd space. Basically what I'm trying to do is just open this in VS Code through command line interface. So cd space is the directory where this we have copied the directory through the Explorer's URL section or address bar section and pasted in chain directory, and then just press code space dot. So this is the Node.js folder. It's not necessary to open like this, but it's just a way of opening a VS Code folder. I'm gonna give it a new file called app.js just to see that a node is working or not. Okay, so let's assume we have console.log, and you can see console.log is a JavaScript language, so Node.js itself is supporting and actually incorporating JavaScript as a backend. So I'm gonna write hello world. So just type node app.js and you can see hello world is printed. So our node is working, and we are going to continue with installing the packages. So npm install nodemon. Actually nodemon is like node modules installer, and as you can see, package.json and package.log.json has been installed. Okay, the next thing we are going to do is add more functionality to this code, and for that what we are going to do is give it internet services module, that is node install express. And as you can see, the node command is not working, my bad, it's actually express with npm. npm is full form for node package manager, so it will install the package. I'm using cls to keep the code neat and clean. Then npm install course, and why we will use course I'll tell you later. Then npm install MongoDB. based on the quality of the internet it could take time, so we are going to check that whether everything is working fine or not. So you can see from package.json that these have successfully been incorporated in a replication node on MongoDB Express and course. We are going to add a command here, scripts, and name it as dev, and that will be nodemon app.js. So what it means that whenever I'm starting the application, the starting point will be app.js. So this is like node's main module will be app.js here. And as you can see, package itself is a JSON format, so node entirely is configured based on the JSON notation, which is name value pair. This is name, then this is value, this is name, this is the value. So I hope there is nothing much to worry about what it means. Okay. Let's continue. So constant express is required. Express. So what is express is basically you are telling the Node.js that now you are going to use World Wide Web or internet or HTTP, means this is a web application. Then you have constant course is equal to require course. Before that we are going to write here constant app is equal to express, which is a constructor of the express object. Then app.use course, and we are going to verify that everything is running fine by running npm run dev. As you can see, now I'm not writing node space app.js, instead I'm writing npm space run space dev. So what it means that start the application based on the script dev, which is the starting point app.js. So I'm running it. If there is no issue, there will be no error. Hence there is no error, so I can confirm that we have written everything right. Then we are creating port equal to process.env.port and then 5000. So what it means is that if you find a localhost, give it a gateway of 5000. So f.listen port. Okay, so our API is running on 5000. It's not API. What it means that your Node.js is running on localhost 5000. As you can see here, there is not written page not found or no response. Like for example, I'm writing 5003 here. It will load for a time and just say that it does not exist or connection refused or etc etc. Okay, the same is the case here. So we have successfully started a Node.js. Now first thing we are going to do is create an API. So for API we need app.get. Get means get API. It's a get request like post, get, put. These are types of HTTP requests that you can do. So I'm just writing here slash, and then I'm gonna write a function request comma response, and then just enter press. Okay, so this is our get request. So to verify our API has been called or not, I'm gonna write response.send. You are inside API zone of localhost. Let's say I'm just writing this, and then I'm gonna just paste here. Response is not defined. Oh my god, one thing I mistakenly did is this is res, so I'm gonna write here response, and this is request. Okay, so now you are inside API zone of localhost. So this is basically means that whatever you request will be the request part. Like if you are sending some parameters to the API, it will come inside these. A response will be what you will send back to the person or a system that is actually sending the request to the API. So this is a very basic API. But if you want an API that has a name or identification, just write slash and let's say test APIs in underscore, sorry, just slash. Okay, so this you are inside API zone of test. So let's search it now. This is our basic API that is on just slash then test API and slash. You are inside API zone of test. So now I can give it aliases. So this URI that has this user, sorry, the URL has this test API is like an identification what API you want to call or what functionality you want from this Node.js application. So you can uniquely identify whether you want this API to be called right now or not. So response.send is something like whenever you call a person, he receives your phone and in response he talks to you back. Okay, so same is the case here. Okay, now let me disable this. Okay, so this is how you will call the API. If I write response.json and run this application, and you can see here it just converted the whole string into a JSON format. Now this is a raw data format, you can see, but this is not actually JSON. It just means that in a JSON environment you have passed a value. For JSON, what you have to do is create name and like this. Okay, so refresh. Now this is what I wanted, and I'm gonna write name. Check it now. Now this is somewhat JSON, but there is issue, this cannot be translated as a JSON. So we are going to write JSON.stringify. JSON.stringify. What stringify does is JSON.parse. Oh, sorry, first we are going to do parse, then we are going to look for stringify. I'm writing name Ali Mobin. So let's see if it's working. Unexpected token and at position 0. Okay, so I guess this will be like this. Okay, so this is now name value pair. So what mistake I did was JSON itself is a collection, so I needed was adding curly brackets which will make it a JSON format. Okay, so as you can see, if I remove these parentheses, it's creating error. I'm just testing what mistake we did before, and we should not do it again. So you can see here that these outside parentheses, sorry, quote marks are actually for the string that you are converting to JSON. Then inside you have to convert them as this format. For that example, let's say this is the JSON. As you can see, the name also has a string and value itself is encased inside a quotation mark. So same is the case here, we have to encase them inside a quotation mark. So this is how JSON format you can return to the database. So this is how APIs work. Okay, so we can verify through Postman that our API is being called correctly or not. So what I'm going to do is call the test API and see if it's working or not. I'm gonna close additional stuff, don't save, and test API. This extra parameter I'll remove it because that is from another case. As you can see, a JSON is returned, so the API is successfully called. Okay, so one is the slash that you can use as this is the zone, or you can create a generic design that whenever you open this application it will show you like this. Okay, that you are in environment of a certain URL that is API part, or you can write some instructions to the user that how you can use these APIs. So you can basically just type tutorial. Let's see if HTML is working inside it or not. Test. So I'm gonna just test it. Yes, it's giving HTML, so I can write something like h1 and then paragraph. This is the main you are accessing Google Weather API portal. Let's say this is like a welcoming page. So you can see here the CSS is, oh sorry, HTML is properly working here. Okay, so you can write that. But when you want specific record, like I want the weather of Karachi or whatever, you can create an alias name test API and then clearly specify what do you want. So different APIs can have different results. Okay, so since we have done the basic part, we can successfully say our API is properly working. Now the next thing we are going to do is connecting MongoDB. Okay, so moving further, I am going to print the message that our API is successfully running. So tilde is used for choosing the dollar as a concatenation method. So I'm going to explain here. API is running at local host dollar port. So it can tell you that localhost is running at 5000 port. Okay, so with quotation marks you can't use the dollar like here, then you have to use plus as a concatenation method. Anyway, so let's start with our MongoDB part. So variable Mongo client is require MongoDB dot Mongo client. Okay, so I'm gonna check everything is running. Yes, everything is okay, there is no issue, but yes, everything is fine. Then what we have to do is variable client is equal to Mongo client dot connect, I guess. Then the URI path, I'm gonna take a reference here. Yes, so client is just new Mongo client. It will do the same thing just like the way I did before with Mongo client don't connect. So but here I'm instead using a constructor, and let's copy the connection string and paste here. So it will just verify that our data is successfully running, or the API is successfully running. So after first what you have to do is fetch the Mongo server, then MongoDB DB. Okay, so the thing is, so far I have only fetched the server through the connection string of the MongoDB that we just copied. So then what I'm going to do is db is equal to client dot db, then write here vehicle db. So I'm going to check one by one, everything is fine. Yes, everything is fine. Then next thing I'm going to do is collection, and in our case it's vehicle. So I'm just gonna write db dot collection and write here vehicle. So now I have vehicle collection, which is also a name for table vehicle. So collection is basically just like table in a SQL server. So I'm gonna write response.json, and instead of this I'm gonna comment this and write here vehicle.find and paste it. So let's see if everything is fine, there will be no error. It's getting the records but does not know how to address it. So I'm gonna write to array and check again. Okay, so now this is empty. So let's see what is missing here. Okay, so there is no record inside it, but I actually did place a record inside it. So what I can do is variable result, let's check it here. vehicle dot find dot. Okay, so let's see. Find says from MongoDB dot to array, and then send. Remove this and result. Okay, so what could be wrong here? Let's see. Database is right. There is vehicle DB as far as I know. Yes, spelling is right. Then there is vehicle, and yes, there is vehicle. So let's try a specific one. Then maybe find one. I'm doing something wrong. Okay, find one syntax is wrong. So find with capital O. Okay, so still giving empty records. So MongoDB is connected, PickleDB is there, collection is there, and find one is giving empty result. So I'm gonna write a send and say it's still giving empty. So I'm missing something. So give me 1 minute and I'll check it. Okay. So find curly brackets dot to array with. Okay, so the records vehicle DB collection, copy this and send variable result is equal to find collection and then result giving me empty. Maybe try send. Okay, and then paste. Oh, say I forgot to add async function, so await. Okay, so this is how you receive your record back. So I did some mistakes, so I'm gonna be honest, I edited a lot of video. There are sequences where I stuck myself, and this is because of the async method and this small tiny cut time slash. So thank God I got it and recovered it. So this is how you receive your API's data back as a response. So you can see from MongoDB I've got the record back. So I hope you have some idea now how APIs work. And then now if I want to add parameter as a request to the API, what I can do is just write like for example name vehicle underscore name is Corolla 2014. So whenever I send this request, it accepts the parameter and search based on that. So for that, what I'm going to do is just write here vehicle name underscore and request dot query dot vehicle name, and we can get the record back. So now if I'm writing wrong value here, like something like this, it should give you empty result, as you can see. So I don't know what shortcut I pressed and everything is deleted. Vehicle.find Corolla 2014, I guess that was the value, and I have got it back. So searching using get request with parameters, all I have to do is write request.query.vehicle name. Now whoever is sending me the request will send the query string along with it, so that the data can be searched based on that. So this is how get request works. Now let's say I'm writing a post request. For post, this won't work query.vehicle. Instead it will work like request.body.vehicle name. So test API, instead of this post API, let's say this is a new API. I'm gonna write post API, and you will see there will be error, and this error is because post request does not have query strings. I'm gonna remove this, go to body, and write here vehicle name is equal to Corolla 2014, and send the request. So there is one issue here, and that is I have selected post, and now it will give us some kind of error. So let's say, well, it was a silly mistake. Instead of writing body in raw format, what I had to do was just select this vehicle name and write here Corolla 2014, and as you can see, you got the records back. Seriously, this was a very silly mistake, but this is not part of Node.js. This is because of Postman, since I'm sending the data through post request. Usually the benefit of using post request is that your parameters are hidden, but as you can see, when we were doing get request, and let's say I'm writing something like here vehicle, you can see whatever you send is sent in along with the URL, so the data that you are searching is exposed, and it can be very harmful for the application. So for post, the benefit is you can write it here. Okay, so this is how API get and post work. So we will continue with the Flutter in the next lecture.